Good evening. Welcome everyone to our Aesthetic Impact Informational Services LLC presentation for this evening. It's March 9th. I'm Teresa Frisch, and I am happy and glad and grateful to be able to give you this evening the wise counsel of Angela Thompson-Smith. Angela has been a figurehead in the remote viewing community for many years. I won't say how many. She served on the board of the International Remote Viewing Association. She has her own business, Mindwise Consulting. She is an instructor in remote viewing, runs projects, is project manager, travels, gives keynote speaking engagements, seminars, conferences. Really, I think she'll be able to tell you in a moment. I think she's going over to Scotland possibly, or Ireland soon. She's traveled to the East Coast, the West Coast, the Southwest to give presentations and courses, and we're very lucky to have her with us tonight. I will turn the program over to her. Her topic for this evening is remote viewing and cross-training, which she will speak to, and then we will have question and answers afterward. And I would like to remind everyone that we are going to be recording for those people who couldn't come today or tonight. Lots of time zone involved because we have remote viewers from the world over participating in online forums and courses. And outside of the fact that we are being recorded, welcome everyone, and I'm so happy to have all of you here. We may have some extra people coming. We do have several more participants who are not here. And with that, thank you very much. I'm going to turn this over to Angela and make her the presenter. And you are in charge, madam. Welcome.
All right, thank you. Thank you. Well, I am very happy to be here. I had presented a couple of, maybe 18 months ago, 2 years ago, and I'm happy. I feel like I've come home. And I'm back presenting again with your group, with, with WebEx. And I'm very happy to present this material because it's something different in the remote viewing community. We hear a lot about CRV and ERV and ARV, but very few people are talking about putting those methods together. And the reason I came to this path was from two directions. One was in sports training. Very often they find in sports training, research has found that if you train say a skier as a jogger, as a long distance jogger, then they'll do better in one sport when they're trained in another sport. So it tends to cross over the training. It strengthens skills, it strengthens acuity, it strengthens endurance. And then also in remote viewing, I've come into remote viewing through a very unusual path. I came in as a natural remote viewer in the very, very beginning, then took training. And so I've come to this from, I didn't come in as a newbie straight into CRV or straight into ERV. I'm really cross-trained myself because I came into this knowing what I could do myself, and then adding in all of these other modalities. So what I would like to do today is to give you an idea of why cross-training, how cross-training, and some of the applications. Okay, so I'm going to quickly go through the PowerPoint presentation with some comments where appropriate, and then I'm going to open it up for questions. So please, participants, if you have questions, make a note, and I'll be very happy to include those at the end. So why use more than one method? Some people who come into CRV love it and they stick with it. They love the protocol, and I do too. I really like the CRV protocol, but there are so many other types of remote viewing that can be used. So a little history. I really love this quote from Inga Swan, and I try and include this in every presentation. For remote viewing to have a more positive influence on our future, it must be found useful at the grassroots level, where goal-oriented individuals can perceive its application for the common good. Only those individuals who've made some effort to understand it as a personal experience will be in a position to comprehend more fully the potential of it. They are the advanced thinkers who will redefine the boundaries of consciousness. So a little bit of historical background. The photo is of Russell Targ, and when we had the beginning meeting for ERV Halpert and Russell Targ met at Lynn Buchanan's, and they hadn't seen each other for 13 years since they were at SRI. And this was their first meeting after so many years, and this is them exchanging cards at Lynn Buchanan's house. And I thought that was a very momentous photo op. Remote viewing is a human information accessing capability. It pertains to the mental ability to access and describe information blocked from ordinary perception and secure against such access, which is more or less a standard definition. The term remote viewing, the general term, was coined by Inga Swan and Janet Mitchell at the American Society for Psychical Research in the early 1970s. And then Inga Swan took that term to Stanford Research Institute. So remote viewing then was researched at Stanford and then at SAIC in Palo Alto, California. And then the Defense Intelligence Agency created the U.S. Army Remote Viewing Unit at Fort Meade that was operational until 1995. So I'm not going into a lot of history here, just covering some of the basic. RV became public around about 1993-4, and retired military were then teaching remote viewing, retiring, setting up schools. There was, Paul had retired, and Lynn retired first, then Paul, and some of the other participants at Fort Meade. So retired military are now teaching remote viewing and carrying out operational applications. And then in 1999, there was the formation of the International Remote Viewing Association. And that brought together a bunch of people who'd been important in the field, influential in the field, to come together and create a cohesion between the various groups. And that's worked partially well. What remote viewing is not. Remote viewing is not witchcraft, storefront psychic, voodoo, Satanism, or New Age hype. And that, yes, that is me. That was at a Renaissance fair. So I bring that out at Halloween, the photo. What are the benefits of cross-training? It allows flexibility in accessing data. Method can be matched to the need. Different methods can access increasing levels of information. For example, using CRV and then a little bit of feedback and then using ERV. It keeps the viewers interested and motivated. Not all the viewers are trained in the same protocols. Not all viewers are trained to the same RV level. And cross-training gives a tool belt of methods. So what I mean by not all viewers are trained in the same protocols, sometimes bringing in an adjunct method can level the playing field. The same with all viewers not trained to the same level. In a project, you may have some viewers at the basic level up to stage 3. You may have some at the intermediate level or the advanced level. Bringing in another method at some point, again, levels the playing field. Cross-training being a tool belt, it's important in any task to have a tool belt. You can't use a hammer for everything. You may have a very good hammer, you may have a very expensive hammer, but a hammer doesn't work for everything. Sometimes you need a screwdriver, sometimes you need a pair of pliers, And that's how I think of the different remote viewing methods. They constitute a tool graph of methods. So what is remote viewing? It's the trained mental ability to access and report in a prescribed protocol information that's accessed by something other than the known five senses, using methods and techniques that were developed over 30 years of research. It's more than that now. This was put together a while back. And here are some description examples of the main remote viewing techniques that I bring in to use in my work. The Outbounder Protocol, developed at the ASPR and SRI by Swan, researched at Princeton University. The viewer perceives the locations of a beacon, person, or persons. And this type of an outbounder is useful, for example, if you have a missing child or a missing person or a missing animal. Sometimes the Outbounder Protocol is very helpful because you can then go and look and see if you can find the person using this protocol. It's useful for tracking criminals, terrorists, and missing persons. And I'm going to give you here the gold standard. It's usually carried out with an interviewer or monitor, and the data relate to an analyst. But not everybody has the luxury of a monitor. Not everybody has the luxury of an analyst. So a lot of people work solo. The Outbounder Protocol is useful where conventional systems such as wireless, radio, and radar can't penetrate. It's unobtrusive and low cost. For example, it could be used in a mine. If you had miners stuck down in a cave-in, you could use remote viewing to access where they are, what's happening with them, their status, etc. Coordinate remote viewing was developed at Stanford Research Institute International. And basically, in the beginning, they were using actual geographic coordinates, latitude and longitude, with the viewers. And then it went actually to an encrypted form because somebody had said, oh, I could tell you where that coordinate is, that latitude, longitude. I know the globe, and I could just phone in and tell you where that is. So then the latitude and longitude were put into an encryption process and came up with an alphanumeric, a random series of letters and numbers that were the address of the target. So coordinate remote viewing in the common usage is generally a random series of letters and numbers in a format that's used by a particular trainer or applications manager. So viewing is done blind or with minimal front loading, no sensory cueing. There's a lot of discussion about working blind or with front loading. The purists say that you cannot have any front loading whatsoever. Then talks about being legally blind, and that is because in applications work, sometimes you need some information. This is an event, describe the event. There will be in an envelope a date and time. And I'm going to do an article for Kate Martinez on how remote viewing seems to be the only professional organization that doesn't give its workers any information. For example, if you had a lawyer called in to defend a client, and that lawyer was not allowed to know any of the forensic evidence, any of the alibis, none of the prior criminal history for this perpetrator, they would find it very, very difficult to actually do their work. Same with a doctor. The doctor comes in and the patient says, sorry, doc, can't tell you any of my past medical history. I can't tell you how I'm feeling or any of my symptoms. You just have to do your job and find out what's wrong with me. And the doctor may or may not be right. And for front load, for feedback is another iffy thing. The lawyer or the doctor may not be giving feedback. So remote viewing, very often you don't get feedback. So that's another difference between real life and the remote viewing field, which I'm going to write about in the next couple of months. Coordinate remote viewing consists of written perceptions and sketches, bypasses imagination and logical deduction, and the data is usually evaluated by an analyst. And of course, that again is the gold standard, but not everybody has somebody that can analyze. If they have a wonderful manager like Teresa, then they have everything there at their disposal, but not everybody has that luxury. Here's an example of coordinate remote viewing. You'll see at the top some random letters and then a sketch, and it looks like a little volcano sitting on an island in the middle of water. And it turned out to be, this was Crater Lake, Oregon, and that's Wizard Island with the remains of the cone of the, the volcano right in the middle. So that's the kind of application that you could use it for. And before that would come, a lot more data, of course. That was the session summary. Controlled remote viewing, or CRV, is a protocol consisting of sequential stages that allow the viewer increasing target contact. Viewing is done blind or with minimal front loading, no sensory cueing. Consists of written perceptions and sketches, bypasses imagination and logical deduction, and the data can be evaluated by an analyst. And there's another one of Cheops pyramid. This was one I did for a group at Texas University, and I was going through a series of projects with a group there. This one, I had done a whole series with controlled remote viewing. I AOL'd on Cheops and felt that was it, so I ended the session, wrote up my session summary, faxed it off, because at that time I was faxing stuff from Las Vegas, got the feedback, and then the group said they never received my section. So I think it was probably, too good or something. So, but that's the kind of thing you can get, the sketch you can get with controlled remote viewing. Extended remote viewing, another method, was developed at Fort Meade at the Army unit, the ERV unit. Viewing is done blind or with minimal front loading, no sensory cueing. Consists of the viewer in a focused state of consciousness, relating perceptions to a monitor who relays the data to an analyst. And again, this can be done solo. This was the Saint-Exupéry crash, the author of The Little Prince, who crashed his plane at the end of World War II into the ocean. And the group was looking for the downed plane, and 8 viewers participated. I gave a talk on this at the Mesquite, the first Mesquite remote viewing conference. And what the viewers perceived was a pilot ditched his aircraft in the sea off a coastal area near a river estuary, large town nearby, high cliffs and a lighthouse in the proximity of the wreckage site, all of which were present. I would say 80% of the data that the viewers got in that project was correct. Associative remote viewing is not necessarily a remote viewing method. It's a way to use other methods in a protocol, and developed by TARD for Silver Futures work. And there's some dilemma on and some argument on who actually developed ARV. There are 3 or 4 different people, including Russell Targ, who say that they developed it. But it's a very useful protocol, rather cumbersome in my book, but definitely useful. It's useful for outcomes that have an ambiguous outcome, such as the stock market going up or down, and targets with numbers such as the lottery. The viewer perceives one of 2 or more hidden targets that correspond to event outcomes. And when the outcome is known, the viewer is shown one target, picture target or some other target, when the outcome is known. And in this type of remote viewing, it uses picture targets or object targets that are very dissimilar. So you'd have one as A, one as B, These would be hidden, the viewers, and they would be associated with particular outcomes. The stock market going up, stock market going down, to be simplistic. And the viewer would try and remote view the picture target or the object or other target that they would be shown at the time that the correct outcome became available. Vector dowsing was adapted from dowsing skills taught to Marines in Vietnam. Uses map coordinates distant from the target location. No local presence is needed at the site. It's useful for finding underground artifacts, tunnels, and caves. And it's used for archaeological excavations and mining applications. This was a pre-dig map of excavations at the forest in Israel. And the area in the center, you can just see in there the numbers, was an unexcavated area. And what the archaeologists wanted to know was when they went to dig in that area, what would they find? And would it be worth their while to dig in that area? So remote viewing perceived a bath area, bones, specific designs on pottery, all of which were present in the coordinate areas when the archaeologists actually dug in those areas. Here's another lesser known type of remote viewing profiling. It can be done with a coordinate again. It can be done with blank envelopes, handing a blank envelope to a viewer. And in this one, this was a viewer in New Zealand, described a male, could only see the top half, middle-aged, sort of, it was a suit, graying hair, neat, short, bright, strong, opinionated establishment, confident and convinced. And so it was actually a picture of Bill Gates in the envelope at a podium. And it's interesting that the viewer could only see the top half, which was, to me, a perspective. The viewer probably was remote viewing their feedback rather than the actual event. But they did get some really good data. And another example of profiling, this viewer, she didn't write Colin Powell first. She said this is a male, he's got black hair, he's 60 plus, he's famous for international relations, mediation, clothing is a suit and tie, personality is dignified, emotions are hidden, the activity, peace negotiations, terrorist stuff. And she drew a picture. So when I went round and looked at these before we opened the envelope, I said, well, who do you think this is? And she said, I think it's Colin Powell. And when we opened the envelope, there he was. So this can be very helpful in profiling individuals. And in this type of exercise, I always use public figures, people who are out in the public eye, in the media, so as not to intrude on any private person's privacy. So a little question here, does remote viewing work? Back in 2001, I did a study of 25 adult subjects. It was double-blind, all done with volunteers. The viewers were 20 to 66 years of age, 13 males, 12 females, 63 to 9,500 miles away from the office, 8 schools of RV. They averaged 62% correct information, which is way above a nominal 50% or even the 20% by chance that's quoted. And 10 of the subjects scored 80% correct information and above. And I used Lynn's scoring method for this. And I used 2 of Lynn's students to score the sessions. So this was all done. The viewers didn't know the targets. I didn't know the targets. The person who did all the scheduling didn't know the targets, didn't know the viewers. They all had numbers. So it was all done very cleanly. And no gender differences. Remote viewing in action. How can you use cross-training in action? So civilian RV applications have been in place since the late 1980s up to the present time. Accuracy rate averages 50 to 75% compared to 20% achieved by task. A real-world target to include historic events, archaeological sites, criminal cases, missing children and adults, business futures, and real estate development. And a couple of examples. These were carried out by trained remote viewers using ERV and CRV. The viewers were tasked with coordinates and simple front-loading such as what, why, when, where, and who questions for the ERV section. They did not reveal target information to the viewer. The Unabomber Case, this was tasked by a group in California. They wanted a physical description, and the viewers gave the coloring, age, and stature, behavior and activities of the individual, the psychological state and IQ, the appearance and location of his cabin. The data was given to the FBI in 1995, and they really didn't do anything with it, and he was caught through other circumstances in 1996. But that did give us an opportunity then to corroborate what the viewers had received. This was before the Nevada Remote Viewing Group. This was just another group of remote viewers. Boston Art Theft case in 1990, valued at 150 to 200 million at the Isabella Stewart Gardner Art Museum. The viewers described the entry, movement of the art, locations, persons, vehicles, which was given to the detective on the case in 1995, but the case is as yet unsolved. Koran Cove in Australia, there was an investment group. They had 750,000 to invest. This was back in about 1994, and in those days that was a lot of money for a property. Nowadays it's really not. They wanted an evaluation of the best properties to purchase, potential problems, evaluation of the growth of the investment, 1, 5, 10, and 15 years, and they were satisfied clients. In fact, one client took some of the data which showed that one of the types of properties was unsafe. It was being built on islands in the water. And he took that data without letting the viewers know and told the managers there, you know, we've perceived this potential problem. Is that going to be fixed? And they actually found there was a risk and it was fixed. So apart from the actual viewing, the growth of the investment, we had a very practical outcome on the property. And that's it. So I'm open to questions. That's just basically covering some of the methods that are used and how they can be used. So back to Teresa or back to the participants.
Thank you, Angela. And let me just, Lynn's in here. He doesn't, he's like, don't recognize me. I'm just one of the crowd. No, I'm not going to comment. It's not my presentation. It's Angela's. Or whoever
you can comment. It's quite okay.
So let me see if I can get us back to your first slide. Would you, I am just choosing a slide to let this sit on. And is this all right with you as we talk?
Which one do you want to do?
It doesn't matter. Which one would you like to sit here as we talk?
I think the one on why cross-training. I'll go back to that.
All right, why don't we find that one?
Without getting people giddy from dashing back through the slides.
And Lynn is saying no mic. So I am going to give him a mic. There we go. All right, now Lynn, you have a mic.
Oh,
whenever you So everybody, thanks again, Angela, for everything that you've done for preparing for us this evening. And this will go out to many people. I never keep track of how many people look at the recordings or anything like that, but it is available to the entire remote viewing community.
Wonderful.
And if we have questions, Lynn is saying good presentation.
Thank you. Thanks, Lynn.
Lynn, you may, I took your mic off mute. Oh, and he put it back on. Okay. Unless now we're playing mic tag, which does happen sometimes. Oh, there we go. Okay. Uh-oh. This is one of the nights that you're going to sound like a Martian. I'm sorry. Every now and then, see, Terry typed it. We've been this route before. Linda's a Martian. There we go, because it just sounds very odd. And he has, like, laryngitis, too.
Oh, no.
No, I'm joking. It just
sounds
like it. It does. Sometimes if you go back out and come back in again, it will fix itself, but I'll let him decide if he wants to do that. So, who has questions that they would like to ask Angela?
And someone back up there, can you elaborate on ERV? Will I answer that? That was from Terry Bennett.
Terry,
Yeah, and ERV is extended remote viewing, and this was the method that was used in the military group at Fort Meade before they were trained actually in controlled remote viewing. And it was a stream of consciousness method done within a protocol, done with carried out with coordinates. The viewers were given coordinates for the project, and Lynn probably would tell us much more about this. But they would basically have a monitor, and the monitor would keep them in the required altered state to get access the information that was needed for the project. A little different than sitting at a table with pen and paper with the more sequential CRV, but basically it's a stream of consciousness type of remote viewing, and can be done with a monitor or can be done solo if with a skilled viewer.
Thanks, Terry. And I'm just trying to keep an eye on the texting. Can it be used to enhance CRV?
I use it as an adjunct to CRV. Sometimes I'll just use ERV in a project if I feel it's appropriate, just straight ERV, as I did with the St. Exupéry project, the Dowsing. That was pure ERV, extended remote viewing. With the Denver DJ murder case that was published in 8 Martinez, I used CRV first. I had no idea what the project was. I was just given a coordinate, did a project, gave the information to the person that was tasking, and then they gave me a little feedback, and then I went on then to do, using that feedback to do ERV, get much more information. So I think personally it can enhance CRV because it's a broader, more free flow type of remote viewing. You can get a lot of data with CRV, but when you get into ERV, you can be a lot more open and exploring and traveling around and getting a lot more information. The problem is remembering it all. What I do is I cue myself when I'm out there to bring back the information, to remember and bring it back. And I have to write it down or record it straight away before I do anything else when I do ERV. And you could use a tape recorder. You could use a monitor to record it for you, but I tend to work solo, so that's how I do it.
So, good, I couldn't remember if I had taken my mic off mute. So would you advocate if someone doesn't have a monitor, is working solo, that you automatically use a tape recorder? Only because I have not ERV'd, but I've heard that you just get reams of data, and if you have difficulty remembering it all, you have to remember all of it to bring it back and then write it down. So would a tape recorder solve that problem?
Absolutely. For somebody that feels, perhaps when they're training in it, and feel they're not going to remember everything, that would be helpful. I remember my ERVs as a journey. So I will remember when I come back from the remote viewing, I remember pertinent information and I remember it as a journey and remember the journey when I come back and write it down.
Okay. Question from Linda, and Terry says that this does make sense with front loading. And Linda's asking, a digital recorder, do tape recorders still exist? Good point.
Well, I think most people now have one on their phone.
Yeah.
So that could be used, or you know, a standalone recorder. I think you can still buy them, but not a tape. I don't think you can buy tape recorders anymore.
Right. I mean, there are a lot of handhelds out there. So, yeah, good digital ones. So.
Mm-hmm.
And Terry's asking, is it helpful to use HemiSync for ERV, such as from the Monroe Institute?
Okay. Let me see. I didn't hear the question.
Is it helpful to use HemiSync for ERV?
Some people do, particularly if they have difficulty getting into the correct state to do ERV, because you do have to be in that body asleep, mind awake state that Bob Monroe focused on. But after a while, you get to the point where you may not need anything. For example, at the Monroe Institute, they do wean you off the tapes and the focus levels on the last day. So you can, some people like the support of the HemiSync tapes. I don't use them because I can go, I've done this so long now, because I had out-of-body experiences from when I was a kid. So I know how to go and get the information, and I know the right state to be in. I recognize it. But if you're not used to doing ERV, then HemiSync is a good adjunct method.
Then moving down the queue of questions, Julia says she uses ERV, does not use a tape recorder, goes out, collects a certain amount, comes back and writes it down, and then goes back out again. So that is her system.
That's a good system too. Yeah, as long as you can get back into the flow, into the zone again, then that's good. Yeah.
Pat advocates having a good mic because he mumbles quietly when he uses ERV.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the lapel mic is very helpful.
Keith's asking, I've been told doing a lot of ARV alone can degrade CRV skills, and do you find that to be your experience?
Yes, because when I do ARV, I have terrible declines. I've done a fair bit of work for some of the ARV groups, and I find I do very, very well in short bursts, and then I go into terrible declines, and I get negative data. So for me, that's true. I don't do well doing lots and lots of ARVs, but some people are adept at it, and can just continue doing it as part of their routine, and it's all very individual, very personal.
And we'll finish up. Keith has another question that pertains, and then we'll go back and pick up Terry's. Keith's asking, do you have any helpful hints for overlay or displacement in ARV?
No, because that trips me up every time. I get to the point where I'm seeing all of the targets, either if it's 2 or 3. I'm getting information about all of them. So when I get to that point, I stop and I take a break from the protocol. And it's really, again, very personal. I think the more intuitive you are, the more overlay you're going to get, because you're going to be logging in to what's called the data or overlay field, going in and finding data from each of the targets and then putting it into your session. When I do ARV, I don't use CRV, I use ERV. And what I do is I make up a page ready with all the information on and do the coordinate, and then start getting little sketches, 4 or 5 little sketches. And from those sketches, then I can make a judgment on the targets, or give that information then to whoever's doing the judging. So I do it very different. I do ARV very differently than most people.
Just a brief overview about ARV. I can't. Does everyone do it differently? But is it a standard that if you have 2 photos, one's A and one's B, are they on completely different pieces of paper and in 2 separate envelopes?
Mm-hmm.
That's my understanding. I just wanted to cover that.
Yeah, but it can be more complex than that, as
right.
one knows too. Yeah.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure that people understood that there are 2 feedback photos, and they are not 2 pictures on the same piece of paper.
No, completely separate, labeled A and B, or
and in
whatever.
2 different envelopes, completely separate from each other.
Yeah.
And then we're continuing on some ARV questions. Terry, we won't skip over your altered state, but Terry said, or Keith said, she has the same issue as you. She's getting stuff from both of the feedback images, or all of them. And Terry says that in ARV she's done it for fun, and it requires choosing between 2 very different gestalts, and it really does seem to promote sloppy habits for her. So that is her experience. And Pat says in ARV it's hard to have 2 different targets that are of interest to every viewer, not so easy to carry on in the long term. And I could see that, because everybody has different interests, even though you are supposed to be experienced to be able to view various types of targets with different themes and all the sensories. But I could see what he's saying.
Yeah. As I said, when I do ARV, I do well for a period of time. I'm up in the 97th percentile, and suddenly it crashes and burns. And I still haven't figured out how to stop that. So I don't do a lot of ARV. And if I do, I just do short term, just, maybe 4 or 5 short sessions rather than a long extended series.
Pat's recommending not to use whales because possibly they're psychic, they're telepathic. So he's not had a good experience using whales as an ARV target.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And then going back to catch Terry's question, and then we'll go down and get Lynn's. But I don't want to lose what she had to say. How do you learn how to get into an altered state? I'm not even sure that I know what that means.
Okay, best I can describe it is being in the zone. You know that sometimes if you have a project and you get so immersed in it that time passes, you're not even aware of time passing, people can come and go, and you're aware of people around, but you're not always aware of who, what they're doing. But you're immersed in a project. Say if you're reading a book or watching a play, watching a sunset, something really beautiful, you're out in nature, or you're participating in a sport. It's to do with absorption and flow and being in the zone. So if you look up those 3 terms, absorption, flow, and being in the zone, that will give you a lot more information about being in an altered state. And of course, the Monroe tapes will help you too to get into that state. But you've probably been in that state by yourself when you've been doing these activities. When you're watching a play and you get so immersed in it that you forget it's a play or a movie, you're in the zone. You're in that altered state. So you'll recognize it probably the next time you're there and you go, oh, this is it.
She says maybe she should be asking how does she get out of the zone.
Oh, oh, just start counting. Get into numbers, get into some analytical stuff, and you'll jump right out.
Lynn has some thoughts and comments.
Mm-hmm.
One of the supposed possibilities for the displacement is that the future changes. So at the time of the viewing, it is one answer, then later at the time of the activity, it is another answer. Try move to the time of the event before doing the viewing. I've heard it helps some people.
I use that. Yeah, I've learned that from Lynn, and I do use that. Move to the time, and because time, there's this alternative futures problem. My feeling is it's a quantum effect that when you remote view a particular outcome, you collapse the wave and make that alternative future more likely to happen. That's my own personal viewpoint. And I do work with Lynn tasking, move to the time of the event and describe. So I do like that, Lynn, and I do use it, work with it.
And then, thanks, Lynn. About HemiSync, Linda says, HemiSync may be good for a jump start, but the downside is it holds one in place, and consciousness needs to flow, it seems. I tried it once, and HemiSync just irritated me like a straitjacket.
Oh.
That's her experience.
Yeah, I think HemiSync is good to teach you how to get to certain focus levels, how to get to various states of consciousness. Then you take off from there. Once you've learned how to get there, then you can move around yourself and you can be more autonomous rather than being confined with the HemiSync tones.
And Pat says HemiSync is very individual, maybe 35 to 42 lessons to master. Some people just don't get on with it, and he loved it, but for some, it's just too much.
Mm-hmm. And I can agree with that. Anything that, confines you into a very repetitive and very controlled, restricted environment doesn't give you that autonomy to move around in ERV.
Could it become a crutch, like you have to have your lucky rabbit's foot to view, you can't move from the kitchen table to the desk, oh no.
Right, there are some people who cannot remote view without their HemiSync. And you're not always going to have your HemiSync available to remote view. So it's good to wean away from it, and at least for some projects.
Great question. I'm very happy.
Yeah, I like these questions. Yeah.
And it's 9 o'clock, so we're doing very, very well time-wise.
Good.
Terry says, Teresa, even when I practice what is probably ARV, I want to stop and sketch. Angela, would you like to?
Yeah, absolutely. No problem. If you can keep yourself in the altered state or remember what it is you perceived when you're in the altered state, to sketch when you come out of it. That's when I do my sketching and my report. But you can jump in and out and sketch and get back in again. And, it takes practice, but it can be done.
Okay, and she did say ARV. I don't know.
Oh, ARV. I'm sorry. Yeah, ARV. Okay. Yeah, well, that's how I do ARV is, I have the sheet of paper, I get the coordinate, and just see what comes up, and I will draw 4 or 5 sketches that just pop up. And so I do a lot of sketching, and I will label certain parts of the sketches and write words, but it's mostly sketches.
And Julia says she finds using a basic theta with white noise to be helpful getting started with ERV.
Mm-hmm. That'll get you down there. Yeah. Down to that alpha theta cusp. Yeah.
Terry says she thinks it does jumpstart a sketch, and she did mean ERV, not ARV. So.
Oh, okay.
We clarified that.
Okay.
Linda says, about ERV, sometimes after a session I like to relax, maybe gaze at the wall or out the window or whatever and see what else comes in. Is that a version of ERV?
Yeah, because you're still in an altered state. And I find when I've been really into a session, maybe 20 minutes, 25 minutes, and I decide, things, I'm not getting as much data now, I need to come out, I won't move right away. I'll just lie there for a little while just to get my bearings and get myself back into this reality.
I have never ERV'd. I've had a couple of out-of-body experiences and or possibly, sleep, what am I trying to say?
Sleep paralysis?
No,
lucid dreaming?
That's it.
Yeah.
And it's one of my goals to learn ERV. And is it hard? Is it like an out-of-body experience? Is it the same? Sort of?
I have a 3-day pass, and what I do is I'll gradually ramp it up during the 3 days.
I have my eye on you. I'm hoping someday I can come to one.
Well, let's talk. Yeah. So I ramp it up from just very, very simple, like a little bit like CRV. You start off with real simple projects. And excuse me 1 second. All right. Probably sales. So I ramp it up from very, very simple picture targets, and then we're off doing basically out-of-body stuff and traveling around and bringing back data. And I've even had people doing tandem ERVs, which can be fun. See what they bring back.
I think I'm ready to try it and ready for the challenge. It's just I had so much to anchor, and get started and move along. It's like I needed to have some boundaries. It's like I need to get this down before I, try new things. I really want to try.
Yeah, you can come in with absolutely no pre-training. I've had people come in who tell me, I don't have a psychic bone in my body. Teach me. And they do well because they don't have any preconceptions.
I'll look forward to that someday. And back to everyone's questions. And Julia says, also in CRV, I find it is helpful sometimes to break for an intermittent summary, just a free flow write, then return to regular schedule ECRV, like we're in a commercial here, usually in phase 4. Yeah.
I have breaks all over the place. I have hanky breaks. I have cat petting breaks. I have cup of tea breaks. I think, as Lynn has trained us and also Paul, as long as you declare your breaks, and if it's more than, say, a few minutes, declare your time when you come back in, take the coordinate if you need to, and get back in, and it is useful to take a break, just to take care of whatever you need to take care of.
Pat says, altered state of consciousness, not fast mind, slow mind, similar at least.
Again, we're getting into personal descriptions there. The same with left brain, right brain stuff. It's not that simple. Fast brain, slow brain. It's really a very different state of consciousness. And if you think of states of consciousness and not just higher or lower or left brain, right brain, but just different, it makes it a little easier to understand.
And Julia says that CRV is difficult to learn but easy to do. ERV is easy to learn but difficult to do.
I think they're both as difficult or easy as you make them, because with CRV, it is difficult to learn CRV initially, but once you've got it, you can sit down with a pile of white paper and a pen and do a session all the way up to 6 and beyond, then it becomes easier. With ERV, you just have to let go and just let the data come in and record it or remember it. So they are a little different, and I think, again, it's just as easy or as difficult as you want to make it.
Terry says every time she takes a break, about breaks, whenever she begins CRV, the phone and pets go crazy. So she has to deal with it and take breaks.
That can happen too, because I think perhaps this is a personal view that we alter the space that we're in, and pets can pick up on our state, and other people that we're close to can pick up on our state and go, oh, I better call so-and-so, see how they're doing. So we are all connected. So that makes sense.
Linda says, coming from the Zen Dzogchen tradition, I tend to think of it as being in a state of mindfulness rather than an altered state, and they tend to define it as the norm as an altered state, and the psychic state as the superior awakened state.
Again, this is labeled according to different traditions. I find with mindfulness, I'm really here and now and not doing any remote viewing. I do a lot of online biofeedback meditation. I have a beautiful program called, no, I'll have to remember it, and I don't remember it at the moment. But it's a wonderful program that I go into. And with mindfulness, I am here and now. I'm not thinking, I'm just in the moment, which doesn't really work for me, for remote viewing. The psychic state is the better, she calls it the awakened state. You're awakened within mindfulness. That's the best I can describe it. And, you know, being in the zone and just getting out there and getting the data.
And Julia says, Linda, I really admire the way that you put that, because Julia often feels the norm is an altered state instead of the other way around.
Right. Well, every state is an altered state. Charlie Tart, in his book in Consciousness, talking about human consciousness, said that every time our consciousness changes from sleepy to awake to alert to in a musing state, we're changing consciousness. So it's an altered state every time we change our state of consciousness. So waking up from a sleep, we're going into an altered state because we're awake from a sleep state. So that was his definition of an altered state, anytime it changes.
I've become accustomed to thinking of waking up every morning as like coming online and your system's booting up.
Right, yeah.
And Linda notes that the cats, the dogs, and the neighbors want to see what we're up to. And then Keith is asking if you could please post that meditation someplace so we can find it later when you remember it, please.
Right. I will do. And yeah, I'll have to go and take a quick look and find it.
Thanks, Terry. I'm beginning to think every day I'm booting up every morning. I won't tell you how long it takes. Then Linda says, I feel like I'm here and now with the remote viewing. That is, I'm in a state of one-pointedness with doing CRV. Mindfulness only means that we are fully engaged in whatever we are doing. At least that's the teaching.
And again, it depends on the teaching. There is a mindfulness where it's a moving meditation, where you're walking or you're in the pool, or so that could be, you know, something that you do. You could do a moving meditation during remote viewing. But for me, mindfulness and the training I've done is just being in the moment and calming the monkey mind and bringing it down to a dull roar. Wild Divine Online is the name of the program.
Wild Divine over at ION.
Yeah, Wild Divine Online. Yeah, and it's a wonderful program, and they've just come out with a 3D version, Return to the Sun Realm. So I'm doing a little bit of promo for them. I've been beta testing Wild Divine for about a year for them, and I love it. And you can get in. Yeah, you can get in for free, but you really need to buy the biofeedback equipment that goes along with it.
Just Angela's referring to the Institute of Noetic Sciences, ION. where you
no,
find?
they're a little different. No, they're more connected with Gaia.
Okay.
Yeah, but you'll see when you go onto the website, you know, all
they're listed on IONS, but maybe they link you off the site.
Yeah, they probably do some that through ION.
I see.
Yeah.
Pat says, hope you got the flowers at the ERV 2012 K party. If not, never mind. Oh, well, you must have had flowers sent to you. I hope you got them.
I never did. Who sent those?
At the 2012 PK party.
Yeah.
No.
Oh my goodness me. Well, whoever that is, thank you.
Pat McDonald from the UK.
Oh, no, didn't get them.
Uh-oh.
Oh, sorry.
Bunch of wet noodles on somebody.
Yeah. What a lovely thought. How wonderful. Yeah, well, thanks to the thought. Even the thought is wonderful.
I can see your smile is blooming. It's like an entire bouquet.
Yay.
Their smile's blooming even though the flowers weren't actually physically there.
Yeah.
They're virtually.
I wonder what happened to those. Somebody somewhere enjoyed them.
Good point.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so excited. We've had all these good questions. It's 9:11. We've been at this. We started just about an hour ago. I guess we just give folks a little bit of time to arrive.
And I'll leave it up to you when to wrap things up, you know, because I'm fine to answer questions for a little longer.
Okay, I'm fine. Can CRV be related to PK?
I think of RV and PK as two sides of the same coin. One is receptive, one is outgoing. So you're using different energies. I've done a lot of PK work and a lot of RV work, and I find they tend to take different energies. PK is more of a ramping up of energy and putting it out. RV is more of a ramping down and receptive. So they are related, but they're both sides, you know, two sides of the same coin. I don't know if we're having a PK party at the conference this year. I haven't heard anything.
We are.
Okay.
Excuse me, my nose is itchy. I'm sorry. It doesn't have anything to do with ERVA.
No.
Yes, I am on board as a event coordinator of sorts. I was brought on board fairly late.
Yeah.
Most everything was already in place, but I'm kind of in charge of just emailing because I don't have any idea when things are due. It's like, you know, you're in charge of this. Just kind of rounding up, herding. I won't say it's like herding cats, but
it could be.
You try herding Paul Smith. Yeah.
Yeah. I know.
Yeah. You'll get word through that. But anyway, yes, they are having a PK party. That is the plan. So.
Yeah. Good.
And Linda's asking, let's see, is PK related to remote influencing? No.
Well, again, it's outgoing of energy rather than a reception of energy. In that respect, it's similar. Yeah.
Yeah, that is correct. So I was thinking more of mind over matter. Never mind. I'll just be quiet. I should be quiet. So.
Well, it's a complex question. So it's something. There's a very good book. It was called the PK Zone. If you put PK Zone into Amazon, you'll find it. It's an excellent book on PK.
Yes, that's Family Heat.
Family Heat, yes.
Yeah. And Linda's asking, what do you do at a PK party? Oh boy.
We bend spoons.
If Lynn's mic could come off, we would have about 4 of us going, bend, 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 bend.
It's a lot of fun. Yeah.
You have a lot of people yelling bend and looking expectantly at their spoons. And some of them will come away with corkscrews, and let's just say that usually the site location where the event is held is very protective of their cutlery, and they make sure that we furnish our own.
And the place is littered with bent spoons at the end. And I think, but I found the last conference we had where we had the PK party, there were a couple of people that hadn't bent their spoons, and they hadn't bent them for each conference. There's some people who just hold back and they don't let go. But we had one lady there who was very good at bending spoons. And what she did was she cursed at the spoons. She said, "You won't say the words," and bent up her spoon. So I would drag one of these poor hapless souls over who couldn't bend and said, "Stand by her and do what she does." And they would copy, and they would bend their spoon. And they would be amazed. They go, "Look what I did."
Lynn's asking who's hosting, and I wondered if, because Lynn traditionally has hosted a PK party at the ERV conference every year, and he's not going to go this year, and so to the conference. So Lynn, all I can tell you is there were two names that I suggested when it came up, and Pam was going to reach out to one of those individuals, and that's not up for announcement yet, so I don't know where we are with the process, so I really can't say.
I don't know either. I've assisted Lynn over the years, so I'm open to assisting.
Yeah. And can you remote access people using ERV? Richie is asking.
The answer is yes. That's one of those gray areas where you just have to respect people's privacy. But, for example, if you have a missing child, you can use ERV to actually look through the eyes of that child to see where they are, who they're with, where they're traveling, where they go, and report that information to, say, a detective who could go and find the child. So, yes, you can use ERV to access people under the right circumstances.
And let's see, we're going back to the things. Michael's saying you have your mind blown at a PK party and see all those spoons bending.
Yeah.
And Linda says she's imagining all sorts of things. We'll let her imagine on her own there, unless she chooses to share. Linda is saying, can PK be a component of psychic surgery? I do need to put a disclaimer here that we are not a medical resource in this discussion, and we will not be discussing medical applications of anything like that. And if we do, Aesthetic Impact is not responsible for whatever the discussion is, nor does it recommend or endorse. So sorry,
I always add
throw that in.
Disclaimers to anything I do of that nature.
Yeah.
But PK is a blanket ability, so it can be applied to many different applications. I'll just say that.
And Lynn says, I won't be there. The best person for it is called Angela. I will pass that on.
Okay.
Because I didn't know that. Pam Coronado asked, and I threw a couple of names out of people that I knew could bend spoons. I didn't realize, that you were an old spoon bender from a way back. So. Yeah.
But it's up to her. They may want to bring in somebody fresh, but I'm willing to stand in if they want.
I will make sure I send an email off this evening.
Okay.
And thank you, Lynn. And Michael says, I went to a PK party by Jack Hauk, and a lady folded the bowl part of the spoon, not the handle, not the round part, the spoon part backwards.
Right. I've done that too, and I've seen lots of other people do it. They're better. If you have silver-plated spoons, those are the best for folding in the bowl. And it just happens after you get in that zone. Excuse me. It's very difficult to describe. It's like suddenly you're with the group, you're doing spoon bending, and there's a shift in consciousness. That's the best I can describe it. And at that point, you can twist up the spoons, you can bend the bowl, you can do all sorts of things. So have you done it before, Teresa? Have you done spoons?
No, actually, I have a confession to make. I can't do it because I look at the spoon and think that I shouldn't force my will upon it, and if I bend it, it can't perform its function, which is to be used for eating. And I just have this Zen block. I can't.
But you ask the spoon's permission first. And if it says
I know,
yes,
but then it can never be used again, and it was meant
you
to be
can.
used.
They make great pickle forks and party spoons.
Okay, well, I'll think
mobiles.
Okay, I'll think about it.
Okay.
Let's see, and let's see. Pam says, or Pam, why does PK work best in a group setting?
My feeling is that it was Jack Houck tried to generate. It's a party atmosphere, and in a party atmosphere, you're with a group. You've got the group energy, and you can let go and not feel so self-conscious. The first time I went to a spoon bending, which was one of Jack Houck's, I wore my scientist hat. And I was sat there with my fork going, okay, I'm going to watch everybody else because I know it's a trick. And I'm just going to watch people and see what they do. And I'm going to see them bending with force. And then all of a sudden, as I was watching other people do it, I felt that shift. And my spoon went, I think it was a fork, the first one I had, it went soft. And I was able to twist it up. And I amazed myself that I was one of the last people to do it in that group, because I was being the scientist.
Lynn says that Linda does that. She does the mega spoon. Spoons do whatever Linda asks them to do. And he's very envious.
Yeah.
And Michael is saying the question is the ERV method you teach a direct descent of the method done by the U.S. Army Stargate method? If not, how closely related is it?
It's loosely related. They had a very strict protocol, and again, Lynn, I'm sure, would fill in if he was talking, where they had a very strict protocol that they followed. My training is a little looser, and I give the students a lot more leeway to travel and report.
Okay.
So loosely related.
Then let's see. Terry's asking, can it be taught?
Yeah.
And she says she can't either. Must be spoon bending.
Yeah.
And Julia's in agreement. Yes, ND. Lynn saying, Terry asked if this can be taught. Answer, it can be learned.
I like that. Yes. Yeah.
Julia's asking, why does no one teach ERV military style?
I think because it was proprietary, and there's nobody out there who trained in the unit teaching that method. So, I really think it needs somebody who's actually been trained in it to teach it, the military style. And there doesn't seem to be anybody. I think David Morehouse teaches a variety, but he teaches large groups, so rather than individuals.
And I am so sorry, Pam or Pame is asking, can glass or has glass been bent too?
I've never seen it. Lynn might have, but I've never seen glass bent.
Perhaps he'll type something in. Pat is saying the military unit had cameras, mics, and biofeedback monitors, and most people don't have the latter.
Yeah.
Linda is saying, or maybe it can be caught by resonance with others, like she's meaning spoon bending.
Yeah.
And Ron, we'll finish up. Lynn says, the military style of ERV is so demanding of qualified personnel that simply no longer exists. The ERV that is for the public now is a distant relative to the military style.
I agree. Yeah.
Ron's asking, what books would you recommend to read? And we have, like, I was going to say, your entire presentation, not just dwelling on PK. We've touched with Pam Heath's book on that.
Right. There's also a very nice book that a manual with a collection of manuals and papers that Daz Smith has put out called the CRV manual. That's $10 on Amazon. That has a lot of very good information in. That
I have that book. Does it have ERV in it?
No, no.
You can tell I haven't read it yet. I have it.
Yeah. My book, Remote Perception, has some ERV in it, and the way I do it, but it's out of print. You can get out of print copies on Amazon. They're still available. You know, used copies. And I have some copies too if people want to contact me.
I am sorry, I was kind of monitoring the list here. What is the name of this book again?
Oh, Remote Perceptions, my book.
Okay.
I have some copies still available, but it's out of print now.
I see. Then we have, is that better or less effective than the military way? Did we cover that?
Yeah, I don't know because I don't have direct experience with the military method.
Okay. Lynn says we had one camera, nothing more. We weren't in the supply chain because we simply didn't exist. It was almost impossible to get either funding or supplies once the funding was gotten. And Pat's asking, Silva method alternative to Hemi-Sync? He's comparing if it's possible.
I've never done the Silva method, so I really can't compare. I don't know if Lynn has or you
have. Julia says what Lynn has said is very interesting, is wondering if the method is still classified. So Lynn can maybe speak to that. And Lynn says not classified, just no longer any personnel with such high qualifications. And Keith is asking, contact information posted to get the book from you directly.
Okay, let me go back to the last slide here. I have some contact information. They can email me directly.
Okay.
Sorry if this is causing vertigo.
And Pat is saying that he's spoken to others that seem to back to individuals, but it seems to be similar to Silva. There we go.
Okay. Yeah, I've never done Silva. I talked to people who've done it, and they had mentioned some similarities, but I couldn't comment on it.
And as far as Pamela, you are posting under all panelists, so I can see your questions. I tried to encourage everybody to use the drop-down menu on the ellipsis that says all participants. So I didn't realize that you're not able to see theirs. I can see it scrolling in the chat box in the feed. And Julie's asking, what qualifications does a viewer need to have achieved? I'm not sure what to have achieved in what, for what.
I'm not sure. Perhaps means what makes a good remote viewer. So some minimum modicum of ability, good training, and practice. Practice, 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 as Lynn says. Do lots of RVs.
And I'll just put in, again, if you open up the drop-down menu where you chose all panelists, there is a button on the right-hand side. You pull the button down, and you will scroll down, and all participants will pop up right before the list of people in the room. Anyway, and Gary can't either. So Anyway, Lynn referred to no longer having any personnel with such high qualifications, and I see, that was her question. The military ERV discipline for Lynn didn't require any real qualifications on the viewers, but on the monitors. And Gary says that Skip Atwater's book and CD has a good presentation on ERV.
Oh, that's good. Yes, I have that. I've looked at it for a long time.
What is the name of that book, please, Gary or Angela, if you know?
I might like to try to get that. Captain of my ship.
Okay.
Yeah, Master
of my soul.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, that's one book I don't have.
Oh, yeah. And it's very nice. It has a CD in it, and has even pictures of Skip as a little kid. So it's cute. A lot of very good information in there.
And it is 9:31. I think we should probably think about wrapping this up.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Those have been some wonderful questions.
I agree.
Yeah, very lively.
Yeah, I'm very, very happy.
Yeah. That's not me groaning. That's the cat.
Janine is asking, are there any other books on ERV methods?
On ERV specifically, not really. Skip's book, my book, Remote Perceptions. I don't know if Lynn knows of any others, but that's about the only two that I think of that are specifically ERV oriented.
There's a link going in. Just be careful. Don't click on it. If you're in WebEx, some of you, it may throw you out of the room. You can copy paste it and maybe put it someplace, but I'm just warning you. You can click on it if you know your system can handle it. I've seen folks get thrown out of the presentation when they click on a link. So, but thank you, Pat. That's very valuable. And I wondered if Martha's there. Hello, Martha. Martha, sitting there beside Gary. We can see you.
Hey, Martha. And Gary.
And lots of thanks from everyone rolling in. It's my pleasure to be able to do this. It was one of the goals. It's like when you think about what can you do to help, it's like, I can do this. I know I can do this. And so that's why I try to do the online presentations and whatever else I can come up with. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I sort of lost the questions here, but that's okay. I'm listening.
We've pretty much rolled into the thank yous, Linda, or from everyone, and Julia's also saying you are a very warm person, Angela.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Well, I hope it was helpful, and you know, it's a little different approach to just basic CRV, ERV, ARV. So I hope this was informative.
Lynn's apologizing. He was in an all-day meeting, and he's also dealing with computer issues again. So.
Oh dear, yeah.
Great presentation, he says.
Thank you, Lynn.
Yeah, and,
I just wanted to mention I'm going to be talking at the ERV conference presenting the Amelia Earhart case, which will be interesting, I'm sure, to a lot of people.
Actually, I plan to wrap up. Whenever we decided that we were finished, I was going to wrap up with your speaking at ERV this year, and I did.
I've jumped the gun.
Yeah, I was going to say, I know there's a bit of a brief amount of information. We don't want to get your presentation before ERV, so, but can you go over, like, the information that is on the ERV website so we don't spoil anything for anybody? What will you be presenting?
Basically, a group of us were tasked. I was initially blind tasked, and then the group was tasked recently, or last year, looking for what had happened to Amelia Earhart, Fred Noonan, and their plane, the Electra. And questions about where she was, what happened to her, what happened to him, what happened to the plane. The viewers' blind data came back with some amazing correlations to some information without revealing anything. Some amazing correlations to what has been speculated and now is known about a particular island in the Marianas. So I'll be presenting what we found. And we actually had a man on the ground there, a colleague of the tasker, who was able to give us feedback. So it'll be an interesting presentation.
And Terry's asking what day you'll be there, and
I'll be there the whole conference, but I don't know what day yet I'm presenting.
And Lynn's asking if there will be a tape or a recording, which I assume we are taping ERV as always.
Yeah.
We are. And so there will be DVDs available of the conference as always.
Yeah, and I also wrote up the Amelia Earhart case for 8 Martinis. So if they go to 8martinis.com and go through the issues, they should be, if people are interested, they can find an account there too of our project.
Richie's asking, what does the course consist of that you're holding in Scotland?
This is an advanced course. You have to have done CRV with me or another trainer. And we're going to be going into a lot of the advanced applications work. It's a whole day, it's 5 days, and we do a lot of applications work. And also the people that host it, Mike and Stella Webster, also do CRV training. So if anyone's in the UK and they want to do a course before August, so if they're prepared for the advanced course, then they can get in contact with Mike and Stella. And that information's on my front page of my website.
Well, everybody, I think we should probably wrap it up. Thanks again for coming. Thanks, Angela,
for
offering your time.
Thank you.
Offering your time, all the information.
Great. Yeah.
I will get this recording up on YouTube and sent to you. You want to post it on your website again?
I put it on the website and also on FaceTime too. Yeah.
Okay, I will send you a copy of the MP file. Is that okay?
Yeah.
All right. As far as I know, that it will send. Sometimes large files like that can be problematic, but we've done it before, and I think we'll be successful again.
Or the link to the just to the YouTube. Yeah, that will work. And it's Facebook, not FaceTime. Yeah, I'm going to put stuff on Facebook. Yeah.
Okay.
Right. Yeah, excellent. Thank you, Teresa, for inviting me.
You're welcome. Yeah. Not a problem. All right. Well, good night, everyone. And just a reminder that we will be having in 2 weeks our target discussion for the month of April. I believe the coordinates were 140409. And I do have a few sessions that are in my inbox. And no, I have not had a chance to retask anybody. And I will try to get to that as soon as I can, so that if you want to, you can turn in another session. And with that, good night, everyone, and take care.
Good night, and thank you, everybody.